results out of this training. So why attend trainings that does not make sense, and trainings that waste taxpayers' money? From this point on, teachers should avoid any activity of CBC, whether it is training or even whether it is teaching during the school term, until the whole process is sanitized through a proper process of public participation and the nation of Kenya approving a new curriculum.
If you are going to train the teachers, please pay them allowances.
Yes! Most of these teachers are already teachers. Do you get the point? We are not retraining them again. You can see what they are going through. And if you are going to say you mustn't do this, give us the alternative. Because Kenya must move forward anyway, whether anybody likes it or not.
Most of them are our teachers, and the teachers who are involved, we are taking decisive action, and we shall do it promptly. Be it an executive secretary, these are people we release to the unions.
I don't engage in side shows, and nobody's going to take me there. I have a mandate to deliver, and I shall deliver it. Why was there not so much noise in January, and why is there so much noise now? If I am stupid, I'm going to ask myself, why is this? But instead, I'm focusing on the goal.
All right, that's the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor George Magoha. And of course, we have the man of the moment, that is Wilson Sossion, the Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
And we now want to focus on why you are so opposed to the new curriculum. I recall that on the 3rd of January 2018, you stood side by side with the then Cabinet Secretary for Education, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, and you agreed that the piloting of the new curriculum was going to happen. It happened for a year, but within that time, you changed course. What happened?
Thank you. I didn't change course, and this is where we urge Kenyans, and we've made education a public debate, and this is the beauty of Kenya. I am not, and Kenya National Union of Teachers is not opposed to curriculum review. If anything, for avoidance of doubt, within our education policy as a union, we insist that any curriculum must undergo constant review at least within 5 years, and reforms periodically whenever it's necessary. What we are dealing with now is reforms.
Right.
It is a major undertaking. It is a shift. And what we've questioned is the process. The correct steps of reforming the curriculum have not been followed.
Right.
There are too much shortcuts. And I made a commitment. And we made a commitment on the 3rd of January 2018, when we were convinced that the correct process was going to be followed. And therefore, the rollout was suspended in 2018 to allow time for more piloting and time to fix the gaps. To us, that was a momentous occasion that the government was conceding that, yes, we cannot hurry to roll out without fixing a number of things. Let's do a national piloting. And that was a big concession on our side. Because if we question further, there were a number of things that needed to be done even before piloting, including, and particularly, and we are questioning even up to date, there is no policy framework in place, and there is no legal instrument supporting the reform. If that is the case, then anything being done is illegal. We are a country that respects the Constitution and the laws. Why can't we live by the Constitution and the laws? We are questioning the process.
Okay.
We are a union duly registered.
We'll get to that, Honorable Sossion. Let's first of all take a look at what Kenyans have been saying online after we told them that you are coming to daybreak. If we can take a look at the tweets that we have about this conversation. This is Nelson Femi says that the new curriculum was not properly checked before being brought to poor teachers who struggle to cater for these families. Even the government struggles with it. Then someone else, and on Twitter, of course, you can text us your views on 22422. Musioka says that I support NAT. This competency-based curriculum will produce academic dwarfs compared to the more elite 844 system. The international community will laugh at us. The 844 is difficult to beat. Revive group 4 subjects in high school and work on the universities. They are the problem. Someone else? Okay, we'll take a look at the other twist later on. But Honorable Sossion, when this curriculum was being crafted, you sat in, what did you call it, the steering committee of this curriculum. Did you raise the issues that you raised now at that time? Were they addressed? Were you heard?
Some, if you check our records and the statements that we've made over time, we raised all these issues. We did not just raise, but we even prepared position papers. And insistently, the government continued to pursue a route of shortcuts. And that route of shortcuts is getting more persistent even to date. We did raise it. And our major concern is that, one, we are not communicating properly to Kenyans about what is being done. And the process that is being followed is not complying with the law, the Constitution. And I would like to say at this stage, we are a country that respects public participation and is in Constitution Section 10. And you can see the views of experts and Kenyans. And we must tap. And Kenya is not a new country in terms of reviewing education. We reviewed in 1964 through the Ominda Commission. That was a commission that went around the country, and it led to the sessional paper number 10 of 1965. And we had a new education system right after independence. We had the Gashati Commission of 1976. We had the McKay of 1981. That led to the establishment of the Second University of Science and Technology, and to facilitate that, the 844. We had the Kamunge Commission of 1988 that looked at education for Kenya in the next decade and beyond. And we had one of the best, Kwaech Commission of 1999, Douglas Odhiambo of 2012, whose findings were voted down by the stakeholders by 55 to 25 votes. Thereafter, we've not had anything. And the rollout now, engaging in reforms without public participation is a huge tragedy. And that's why we are...
Why do you say there's no public participation, yet all these sectors were involved in that conversation that you're having, and you were part of it? What is this that you want to see to ensure that... you said that you want...
Then what is public participation?
You tell me.
Yeah, the question is, what is public participation with respect to education? I've given you the narrative of how we have done it over the years, even before we had the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Now that we have the Constitution of Kenya 2010, that talks of public participation, this is what we would expect as a union. Number one, there should have been a gazetted commission to undertake reforms and collect views from the public, and particularly with the introduction of CBC. That should have been done. It's a commission with eminent men and women who would collect views from the public. And through this process, the commission would be able to engage the different stakeholders in different parts of the country and from the different spectra of society. Because reform is not about the Minister of Education and teachers only. No, it is about the entire Kenyans understanding and participating in it. Beyond that, there should have been a national education stakeholders forum then to look at whether we need a new education system or not. And that national education stakeholders forum, if it gave permission, then it would give room for the development of a sessional paper that would then be debated in Parliament. Right now, Parliament has not debated. Parliament is the highest institution of representation of the people. And at this stage, it has not even debated. There is no sessional paper. There is no policy framework. Then under which policy framework and law is the Minister of Education undertaking this? We are a country that believes in the rule of law. For us, we are raising the flag that we are not following the law, we are not following the Constitution, and we are fast-tracking a process that would be very difficult to amend or to reverse or to change. And if fully implemented without going through this process, we will miss a lot of steps and will cause a lot of damage to this country. That should have been done. And Ben, let me bring you, let me just summarize one key issue. The process of reform curriculum, the steps in very few minutes. Number one, you must review the current you must do an evaluation of the current education system and see whether it has served us well or not. And that will inform the decision on whether to shift to a new one. And then stage 2.
Are you telling me this wasn't done?
It wasn't done.
There were several sessions.
I can authoritatively tell you that it wasn't done. The next step is needs assessment. It was poorly done. The next step, step number 3, is developing the policy framework. Before you develop designs and do anything else, develop the policy framework. That would even include developing the session of
Honorable Sossion,
this was not done. It is not done up to date.
It is
and
true.
I can say it is illegal to do anything else beyond formulation of policy framework. If you don't formulate the policy...
It is true that there's no sessional paper in force, but I remember that when you stood with the Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, on the 3rd of January, the promise was that that sessional paper was to be designed and tabled before Parliament.
That was 3rd of January 2018,
yes, 2018.
And today
just hold on. Let me ask the question. We were told that by mid-year we're going to have that sessional paper before Parliament. You are now a member of Parliament. Where is it? Do you sit at the Education Committee? What is the process of receiving this sessional paper?
I've not come here to speak on behalf of committees of Parliament. That one, standing orders, doesn't permit me. But if we get down to the facts and that very critical stage of policy formulation, of course, which entails very many steps, and each step must be linked to public participation. It must be communicated to the public. It must be shared with the public. Every step of curriculum reform, so that you carry the entire Kenyans along. And if on the 3rd of January 2018, there was a firm commitment to ensure that the sessional paper was developed. And you see, once you develop, the process of developing a sessional paper is one, you have a commission in place, collect views from the specialists and stakeholders, activate universities to do research, to do studies, paper presentations, and then we have a national conference of education where we debate, we vote, and we agree, and then that would lead to a sessional paper which is tabled in Parliament. And in fact, the debate on the curriculum reform would not only be restricted to the National Assembly, even the county assemblies, because they have a key role to play. The Senate. We expected a huge national conversation so that we could identify the gaps and prepare for the gaps, because CBC is not a walk in the park. This has not been done. And since it has not been done, we have the moral duty as teachers who have been trained professionally on the processes of curriculum review to tell Kenyans the truth. And we are doing it, and we shall do it.
Talking of teachers, Honorable Sossion, you advise teachers not to attend the trainings. And we saw some of your officials disrupting the processes of training. But before I ask you that question, we have Dr. Julius John, the Chief Executive Officer or the Director for the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Good morning, Dr. John. And as you join on the conversation, Honorable Sossion, the Secretary General of NAT, says that this curriculum was not arrived at following the due procedure, that there was no public participation. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you for having me. Allow me, if you give me time, just to deal with one or two issues that have been raised. One, NAT and the Honorable SG cannot talk about rule of law if its members can go to training centers and start throwing teachers out of the training center. That is an illegality. It is not what you expect of an organized union, and therefore SG and my good friends, I think, should revisit the issue of talking about the rule of law. Two, talking about a poorly done needs assessment, I think, is an abuse to people who are intellectually endowed to conduct research. And I've asked my dear friend to let me know in very clear terms which component that was poorly done. Is it the sampling? Is it the methodology? Is it the interpretation of the findings? And, you know, to declare study poorly done, I would have, with all due respect, I think my friend the SG is being very dishonest. Because this was a research that was conducted and was presented to Kenyans at no place other than Kenyatta International Convention Center. We presented the process, the methodology, the findings, and the Kenyans ventilated. This was presided over by none other than the Deputy President of this country. His study that he's saying was well done was never presented to anybody. I don't want to talk about his study because I've analyzed it and you know, as a researcher, because I deal with research myself.
Okay.
I don't leave somebody do it for me and then I come to tell the public. But let me respond to now some of the issues that you want me to handle. One, we must appreciate that our curriculum reform is not only done based on a commission. The fact that we have used committees and commissions before does not make it law. Read literature from across the world and understand how other countries have also done the curriculum reform. Yes, it is a practice in Kenya that we have used commissions, but it is not mandatory. So we should not be made to believe that is only a commission that can generate a sessional paper. I think that is not right. Two, if you look at the recommendations
just before you go on, Dr. Joan, what is the progress of the sessional paper, if you know?
It is in Parliament. I mean, you know, once it is taken to Parliament, it takes its own process, depending on Parliament's processes.
And in your view, is it right to implement a curriculum before passing a sessional paper?
Let me tell you, a sessional paper is a process that anchors something in law. In Kenya, we have a number of times we have used sessional paper, but you can have an executive order. You can have other processes that can support the curriculum process. But let me tell you something before we come to that. When you look at the Odhiambo Commission report that the SG is saying was thrown out 52 to 26, are those human beings? 26, are they people? And 56, are they people? And look at the way the Odhiambo report conducted its study and the process that it went through in collecting views from Kenya. It was a comprehensive process. And therefore, the current curriculum reform is heavily based on the Odhiambo reform that needed to align our education system to our Constitution 2010. That has not been done. And therefore, somebody would even say that the current education system that we are having has issues with the Constitution.
All right. So
which one is supreme? Two, summative evaluation was done in 2009, and therefore, Honorable HG should not say that summative evaluation has never been done. Three, if you people read literature, several and thousands of studies have been conducted on our education system, which have said it is good. But there are things that we need to do differently. And therefore, saying that no commission has been put in place, saying that no summative evaluation was done, saying that our needs assessment was poorly done, it's being deceptive. Actually, it's like playing to the gallery rather than handling technical issues. And finally, because I know, let me talk about public participation. We met every group in this country, including the private sector. We even went to NAT and they brought their members from the counties in their boardroom. And finally, after we developed the basic education curriculum framework again, we brought Kenyans to KICD, where they ventilated and they gave their views. Last year, we went to every county in this country in what we call the education dialogue. We started from Narok, and we did the last county that is in Kakamega. When you talk of public participation, what is the threshold of public participation?
Of course, that question is still unanswered, even at the courts. But Dr. John, as we let you go, you said the sessional paper is in Parliament. You can use different legal instruments. Which one are you currently using? Do you have an executive order?
Let me tell you, my friend Gituko.
Right.
The SG is a member of Parliament. They have these documents in Parliament.
Right.
Let me ask you one question. As we talk now, our education system, we have learners committing suicide because of exams. We have about 90, like this year, about 90,000 of our students being taken to the university. 570 are being declared failures because they didn't attend C+ and above. The SG has talked about our students going to some of the top universities in the world, which is true. But that is the small percentage that we are talking about. You know, I'm avoiding talking about sessional paper because as KICD, we after we've done the technical bit, we moved it to the next level. So, you know,
I understand that. Dr. Julius John,
why I'm not
Dr. Julius John, I understand that it's not within your mandate to pursue the sessional paper. I'm just asking, you said that you can use different legal instruments. Is there one that you're using to implement the curriculum? Is it in writing?
Let me tell you something. You listen to various leaders, you've listened to the head of state. You were when he was making pronouncement about the rolling out of the new curriculum.
Yeah.
Are you sure that is a question that you want me to answer?
Okay. All right.
I'll leave you to discuss that with us. So you understand why I'm talking about technical issues on curriculum reform that have been raised by the SG. And
all right.
let me ask you something, Gituku, just before you finish.
Yes, go ahead.
If SG knows those legal process that people are supposed to follow to roll out the new curriculum, and we have the court process and he says he believes in the due process of law, Okiya Mutata went to court over the same things and the documents were given in court. How come he doesn't go to court to deal with these issues rather than going to interrupt a training of teachers, which gives teachers skills and something that really is not within, in my view, the mandate of NAT?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Joan. I'm sure the SG will be responding to some of those. Thank you for your time, Dr. Julius Joan.
And say hi to my friend SG.
Yes, he says hi. So what do you have to say about all the issues that he's referring to, just briefly?
Now, I think Dr. Juan is at pains to accept that they're doing an illegal thing. Now he's trying to invoke that they could do it using an executive order, but is not admitting that there is no executive order and there is no sessional paper. And you know, this is about compliance with the law by institutions and individuals, and you'll remain accountable in the end. KICD is created by law to advise the government accordingly. And I think this is where Dr. Juan has failed with his team. They should have advised the executive and the president and of course the ministry that they cannot even develop the designs without a sessional paper or without an executive order for that matter. Because if an executive order could have been issued, then we would have engaged that route. If there was a sessional paper that had been approved by Parliament, right now we'd be talking about different things. The missteps, why is it that this process is being taken away? You see, when we talk about public participation, for example, when you develop the policy framework, once you develop the policy framework, you engage the public. You engage the stakeholders before moving to the next step. Because CBC is not a walk in the park. It's a very complicated curriculum that requires a lot. And you see, at the end of the day, it will happen in the classrooms. And if it happens in the classrooms, it is my members who will be affected. And that is why I have
but here
a lot
an
of direct mandate. Of course, very many issues that is questioned about the needs assessment. Our professional analysis indicates that it was poorly done, and of course, is asking us why we are stopping teachers from participating. We are an organized institution that believes in the rule of law. And there is nothing wrong with invoking.
Talking of rule of law, we saw some officials of your union disrupting training sessions in the western part of the country.
That is not called disrupting. Let me remind Kenyans.
What do you call it? If you have those pictures, what do you call that?
And let me remind Dr. Chuan that we are a trade union that derives its mandate from Section 41 of the Constitution. And we have the right to picket, to boycott, to demonstrate. It's our constitutional right.
Including
and from
going
that
to disrupt
basis,
a class session
of
training
they were not disrupted. Our leaders moved in to address our own members who had been policed through threats by TSC and the Ministry of Education to be forced to look like they are being trained. And by the way, no training went on. What was happening is just residential sitting and payment of allowance. What we did was invoking
our trade union
mandate. Our trade union mandate to organize and to engage in labor activities, including instigating boycotts. And this will not be the first time.
How would you say there was no training happening, Honorable Sossion? Yet you saw the cabinet secretary touring different centers.
When you see the face of a cabinet secretary and the CEO TSC, that is not an indicator of effective training. No,
I'm saying they were in classrooms.
Effective trainings will be seen in the classroom when the teachers will be implementing the CBC. The fact of the matter is, from our research, and this Dr. Juan should agree, no teacher in Kenya and nobody even at KICD has ever trained or taught through the CBC. It is a major shift.
What kind of training? Honorable Sossion, early in the year, you came out and released a report saying that teachers have not been trained. Then the Teacher Service Commission came out and said that you're going to train the teachers this April. They'll do another one in August. So what kind of training are you talking about?
Let me bring you back to the effectiveness of training. And I'll take you to the laptop training, which was still conducted, formulated by KICD and the Teacher Service Commission. Right now, credible reports that have been tabled even by the Minister of Education in Parliament indicate that the laptop project has failed largely because of poor training of teachers. You can undertake training, but you can do poor training. And particularly, the ICT should not have failed. We cannot fail to train
teachers
effectively.
That's what I'm asking. What is this that you need for teachers to be trained?
And because the laptop training failed because of poor training, the CBC is even more complicated than the ICT. The laptop is placed at 5%. Our research has indicated very clearly that even the trainers are not competent enough to interpret the designs. And right up to this stage, there are no indicators that even those personnel who have been prepared to train are competent enough. And the teachers who have been at the training centers across the country, that we can give you now our initial findings out of what went on on the last 4 days, last week, for those who attended, that the trainers are completely incompetent and they have not properly interpreted the designs. They are doing it because they have been forced.
How can
that
you
is
say...
number one. Number two.
Just before we go to number two, how can you say, Honorable Sossion, how can you say that they are incompetent in training, yet you do not even know the content they are supposed to be training? You did not attend the classes yourself.
Let me tell you, Ben.
Sam.
We don't sit idly wherever we are. We collect data, real big-time data. We know everything that is going on everywhere. And we get this data from our teachers. And right across our we have a fully fledged research department that is able to engage in investigation and get to know exactly what happened. Number one, these teachers were forced and threatened to attend the trainings, which is okay for us. We said yes, those who can attend. Number two, the training processes in terms of effectiveness is extremely low. And number three, the teachers are telling us this curriculum is impossible to implement because they have not been prepared adequately in terms of pedagogical skills, that even those who are training them do not understand what they are training. Further, a report has been indicated, as was released to us. Dr. Juan was in the meeting on the 15th of December. And that is when we resolved to defy to 2020 so that we could fix these gaps. We wonder what happened thereafter. The quality assurance and standards officers from the ministry do not even understand what CBC is all about. And these are the men and women who will be expected to oversee the implementation of CBC. With all this data coming out, the truth of the matter is we've not followed the requisite steps. Why do we hurry to roll out a curriculum where many things have not been put in place, where public participation has not been exhausted completely, Parliament has not debated? And I want to ask Dr. Juan, when the piloting is done, and this is the most critical step, once you do a piloting, you will definitely have a pilot report in the end. And you will have a summative evaluation of the pilot. Which was not done.
He says that
was done. And that summative evaluation of the pilot, no, he's talking about needs assessment.
No, he said that the summative report was done. So it's your word against his.
No. let's not mix up.
Kemboi Oscar says that the new curriculum is good. It accommodates the abilities of every learner. NAT and the Ministry of Education should have a dialogue and come up with a common solution. So the question I want to ask you is that part of 2017, there are children who were taken through pilot. Now they are already upper primary, so they have reverted to the old curriculum. There are those that were piloted last year, 2018, and some this year. So these children are already receiving instructions based on the new curriculum. Now you are here saying that it's not being done the right way and should be stopped. And don't you think you're confusing the learner? And in your view, what should be the way out of all this?
In my own view, and we've given our honest opinion through position papers and research, which Dr. Juan is trying to politically and mischievously, together with the team at the ministry, to put it under the table. But we are being very honest, because CBC is not an easy curriculum in terms of cost, in terms of infrastructure, and in terms of human resource orientation. And we are talking about this. I have a lot of global experience from the trade union point of view in curriculum reviews. The CBC has failed in the US. Almost 3 times teachers have rejected it. In the UK.
Did it fail? Why did it fail in the US?
It failed in the US because teachers were not ready. And they thought they should oppose it, and indeed they opposed it. Why? You've seen one comment from one viewer that CBC will lead to intellectually deficient. What is basic education? Basic is, the emphasis is more on knowledge and cognitive development. And therefore, when you talk of CBC, it's more of competencies at both basic. And when you talk of elimu msingi, it means we must strengthen the basis of knowledge. And that's why our students have been doing very well. And so CBC has not been well received all over the world. Get down to South Africa, which has been mentioned by Magoa, Professor, as a country that has done well. Teachers in South Africa boycotted the trainings. And even after trainings for 6 months in the classrooms, they reverted to their conventional.
So, Honorable Sossion, is it a case of monkey see, monkey do for the Kenyan teachers?
It is not monkey see, monkeys do. It is the right thing being done.
All right.
We must have the right things done.
Okay, I want us to take a look at what Kenyans are saying on Twitter. If you have those feedback that is coming through at Citizen TV Kenya and at Sam Gituku, if we can have a look at that. This is who? Of course, talking about the discussion in studio. Okay, so Francis Kigondu saying that Sossion should give us a break. This CBC is where we should go. NAT should stop meddling into the mandate of the ministry. He has opposed NEC overhaul, free books in schools, etc. He's like, whoa. Okay. Next. Ju Tanui, Honorable Sossion is no longer fit to speak on behalf of teachers. His interest, teachers' interest, no learners' interest. We have another view. Wilson opposes everything education. One wonders, what exactly does he want? Trust you me, if he is given this docket, he can run it. The man opposes to virtually everything that is above. And Ogola says that at the SG, could it be that NAT fears losing its members as a junior secondary would reduce 8 years one takes in primary school? That's an important question, because there will be reorganization of learning. Is that a concern for the teachers?
No, let me tell you, we are not concerned about numbers. We are not concerned at all. Our membership, we draw our membership right across the board. Our argument is very philosophical. Can we do things right? Can we follow the law? If today there's a there is a session of paper that originates from a duly constituted national conference that gives direction, we would have no problem. And as a union, we are not here to cheer wrong things being undertaken by the ministry. Ours is to speak when things are wrong, and we shall do so whether Kenyans like it or not. We shall speak within our mandate. When things are wrong and when they're right, we'll always say so.
All right, Muhyiddin from Moyale says that I'm a retired curriculum support officer, and from my experience, I know curriculum changes cannot be an overnight decision. Currently, teachers have not yet been trained, while the new system is already on the ground and at class 4 where there's nobody for it. Muhyiddin, of course, giving us your views. Thank you so much, Secretary General for the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Sossion, also nominated Member of Parliament, for making time for us to talk about this. I hope we'll get more time to engage on other matters affecting the teachers, including labor. We had a dispute early in the year. There's the question about housing levy. we'll get time to talk about all those. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. So we take a short break, but when we return, Willis Raburu and his gang will be talking about, this is camera one, we'll be talking about Sporty Monday and why Manchester City will be crowned the winners of the English Premier League and why Manchester United remains 6-6. After the break.